Okay, here we go. Yes, I know, I'm driving a Cabriolet on a warm Connecticut summer day with the top up. I know, I'm a loser. But I have a cold, I don't have enough voice to shout above the wind today, so the top has to remain up. Anyway, as you can see, today I'm driving the Porsche supercar, the Turbo S, which truly is a supercar because it can keep up with a 1,000 horsepower Bugatti Veyron 0 to 100 miles per hour and can do sub 3 second 0 to 60s all day long. Part of the reason the Turbo S can do this is that despite Porsche's claims that this is a 560 horsepower car, no one that's ever dynoed one of these in stock form has found it to have any less than 600 horsepower. So it's once again Porsche understating the horsepower on their cars. And of course, if 600 odd horsepower isn't enough for you, there's still plenty in reserve in these engines. A small ECU tune that normally costs about $2,000 will unleash 700 plus horsepower in these cars, which should see off that neighbour's Hellcat no problem at all. Anyway, the reason I'm driving this particular car today is on the request of my local dealership, Porsche Fairfield, are always so kind to me, lending me their cars, and they're hoping that by featuring this car on my channel, it will find a new home. And besides which, driving a Turbo S, no real downside for me. And normally this spec of car, white over red interior, would sell almost instantly because this is $60,000 off the new price and it's only got 3,000 miles on the clock. So you're getting basically a new Turbo S for the price of a GTS. However, as you guys might have noticed, this car does have one tiny little flaw that might be preventing it from selling, and that is the yellow seatbelts with the red leather. It's basically turning this into Ronald McDonald's 911. Yellow and red combination is not a popular combination. In fact, I'd say the cross section of people that are looking for a Porsche Turbo S and people that like red and yellow interiors is about the same as intelligent, attractive women that find Nick Murray sexy. It's a very small number. Still, it's no biggie. You could easily change these seatbelts out to red or black, and this goes back to being a classy, well-spec'd 911. And the Turbo S comes with many standard features you normally have to pay for on most 911s, including carbon fibre, the 18-way seats, the active spoilers for front and back, Bose sound, although this one's got the Burmeister upgrade, LED lights, the centre lock wheels, carbon ceramic brakes, rear axle steering, Porsche dynamic chassis control, and of course a little torque meter, a performance meter here in the dash that you don't get in other models as well, which if you see here, when I put my foot down, it shows a little ball that jumps around depending on the revs you're doing. And that also changes when you put it in sport mode. You suddenly see this little extra bit up here, which is the overboost function. Sport and Sport Plus modes will give you just a little bit more torque. And all of this combined with that 600 odd horsepower engine makes this a ludicrously fast car. So fast, in fact, that any small corner at any speed, you put your foot down, the whole car, even on a great surface, will drift sideways just because it has so much trouble getting the power down to these enormous wheels. These are stunningly fast cars. So is there any downsides to having a Turbo S? Well, in my opinion, and keep in mind it's just my opinion, and most Turbo S owners will disagree with these, I'm sure. The first one is, of course, the price. The Turbo S is a very expensive 911. You'd be very hard pressed to buy a new one for any less than $200,000. Most of them are about $210,000, $215,000 with just a few light options on them. Secondly, of course, they only come in PDK and all-wheel drive, which of course is not a bad thing. Getting all this power down, you probably want PDK and all-wheel drive. But if you just want a rear-wheel drive Turbo S, that of course is called the GT2. Thirdly, not all the standard features on a Turbo S are to everyone's liking. The centre lock wheels, for example, anyone that's had a flat tyre more than 100 miles away from a Porsche dealer in a Turbo S with the centre lock wheels will tell you what a pain in the arse they are. Pretty much you have to be flatbedded back to a Porsche dealer to get these tyres changed. And the carbon ceramic brakes, They are magnificent. They don't leave any brake dust on your wheels, of course, and they give very consistent braking no matter how much abuse they get, but they can be quite noisy and squeaky, particularly after you've had them for a while. Carbon ceramics are a lot noisier than regular brakes. And lastly, and definitely the most controversial thing I'm going to say about the Turbo S, is that because it's so powerful, you tend to light foot this car. That is, just a moment on the accelerator and you're doing 100 miles an hour. And that kind of sucks some of the fun out of driving these cars, because you're not really having to push them. You know, if I'm driving up in the Vermont mountains or on a track day, I'd rather have a Carrera T or any of the lower down models. Even a model that's half the price of this car can be more fun than the Turbo S. It's not that the Turbo S isn't a fun car to drive, believe me it is. It's just that so much power does take away some of the experience, because you're always sort of running it at 25 or 30%. I don't know, people might disagree with me, but I like to be able to push my car along, and certainly the lower models I find are more fun because of that. But don't get me wrong, the Turbo S is still an amazing car to drive, and it has performance that is just out of this world. As for the Cabriolet model, this car certainly looks better with the top down, there's no question. And it does a pretty good job, the top, of keeping the sound out, although nowhere near as good as the top on the Boxster models I've noticed. Only takes a few seconds to put up and down, I'll demonstrate it here. And so this, of course, is a 2016, which is 991.1 model. What about the 991.2 models? Well, they got a small bump in horsepower, 20 horsepower, which no one's ever going to notice, because already they're miles above that horsepower anyway, and the torque didn't change, so you'd never notice the difference. The engine remained much the same. It was just a few styling tweaks on the outside, most notably the front LED lights look a little different, and there's a bigger hump on the back. And on the inside, just like all the other Porsches, there's a new PCM, new steering wheels, and so forth. As a whole, the difference between the 991.1s and the .2s is minimal. That's why a 991.1 is so worthy of consideration over a brand new Turbo S, because there's so little changes between the two, unlike the other models in the 911, which all got new engines and drivetrains. The Turbo and the Turbo S, of course, did not. And of course, if you have $150,000, $160,000 rattling around in your pocket and you think to yourself, boy, I could do with a 200 mile an hour car, you can check out this car. I'll put a link to it below in the description. Otherwise, thank you everyone for watching as always. William and I will see you in the next video. Bye then.